Hey everybody, we're back for our final NBA 2015-2016 preview. This time, we're going to be talking about the Washington Wizards.
Yes. The former Bullets, last year they went 46-36, and they lost in the Eastern Conference semifinals. And it was a pretty successful year, aside from that loss to Washington, that Washington's loss to Atlanta in the semifinals. They had a pretty decent year, and hopefully things will improve for them.
Obviously, that series was a little bit of a rough patch. You know, it sucks that they lost, but at the same time, John Wall was injured, and they still put up quite a fight against the Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's positive stuff to work on moving forward.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk about their key additions. So over this past offseason, the Wizards signed Allen Anderson, Jared Dudley, Josh Harrelson, Gary Neal, Ish Smith, and obviously they drafted Kelly Oubre.
I heard he's pretty good in 2K.
He's very good in 2K. You should see him. Anyway, let's move on to their losses.
Yeah, so they lost Will Bynum. Kevin Serafine left as well. Paul Pierce went to the Clippers, as we all know. And Rasul Butler, the three-point shooter last season, has also departed from the team.
Fun fact, I didn't even realize Will Bynum moved. I just thought he got buried on the Pistons bench. I didn't realize they threw him over to the Wizards.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything from him being on the Wizards.
I don't remember anything from Rasul Butler.
Yeah, but I'd never expected something from him. So let's look at their starting lineup. Point guard, you've obviously got John Wall. Shooting guard, Bradley Beal comes in 100% healthy this year, folks.
Yes.
Good sign for him. Small forward. This is odd. I have Otto Porter starting at small forward. Obviously, they need to replace Paul Pierce. They could start Jared Dudley instead.
Yeah.
And that's not what I'm talking about. But I went with the classic front court, that they're paying top dollar for in Nene and Gortat. But Randy Whitman has come out and said that he's considering splitting Nene and Gortat at the center full time.
And having Porter at the 4?
Yeah, and then the small forward spot opens up for Kelly Oubre.
All right.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's going to pan out. I don't know if they're actually going to go through with that or not. But that's been talked about. It's been kicked around a little bit by the Wizards front office, which I think could be good for them. Honestly, we've seen deteriorating play from Nene and Gortat. I don't think they can really... Nene especially, I don't think can handle starter minutes. At this point, I think they're both very effective players, but they're going to need to be effective in smaller minutes.
Yeah.
So let's move on to stats.
Yeah, so Washington, and what surprised me is that they were one of the top 5 defenses last season. They were behind the Warriors, the Bucks, the Spurs, and the Grizzlies in terms of defense. That really surprised me. When I think of the Wizards, I think more of their offense. I think more of John Wall, Bradley Beal, how deadly that backcourt is. It makes me think of Gortat and Nene as well, and how efficient they are on offense. But I wasn't really too aware of how good their defense was. I mean, the metrics show that they were a good defensive team, and I think that should continue because that defense can be really important. They already are very talented on offense. We know that. We know what John Wall can do. We know what Bradley Beal can do. We know what all those other guys can do. Even Chris Humphries and Kelly Oubre. But their defense is going to be definitely what will have to propel them if they're going to be a successful team in this league. You need somebody to guard the elite point guards and Kyrie, even Isaiah Thomas in the Eastern Conference, and Jeff Teague. You need somebody to defend LeBron. And I think the defense really needs to continue being elite this season in order for them to get past the semifinals and be more impressive and a better team and keep improving. Because they didn't really add that many pieces. I feel like having more veterans and having more defensive guys will just make them even better and have them become maybe perhaps improved and probably a good chance at making the Eastern Conference Finals, even though they don't have a chance of beating the Cavs, I believe.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I find my stat was difficult. The one that I want to focus on, 3-point attempts. Their defense is good, like you said, and I find a similar thing to Utah where their defense is great. I don't really need anything to change for that. Their offense, however, they need to take a much different turn. They're fine with assists. Points per game is a little bit low, but they're close to league average, so I can't complain much in that. Their points in the paint is a little bit but that's, like I said, deteriorating big man play. But what I don't understand is their points in the paint are low, but their three-pointers attempted and made are 27 and 26th in the league, respectively. Which means all of their, like, a majority of their attempts and points are coming from mid range, which you can't have. You really cannot rely on that. So I know Bradley Beal's already talked about trying to eliminate that from his game, just strictly threes and free throws.
I think adding Allen Anderson and Jared Dudley and even like Josh Harrelson gives them a lot more 3-point shooting, and Gary Neal too.
Yeah, they really need to focus on increasing those. John Wall 3-point percentage would also be really great to see, like an uptick in that. He's become a decent, not really. He's a little bit below league average still, but he's a threat. You can't just leave him open from three anymore.
Yeah.
Another big time stat for this team, because that one was kind of vague, but a stat for this team that really needs to change. Second half scoring. They ranked 28th in fourth quarter scoring and 22nd in third quarter scoring, while putting up decent enough numbers in the first two quarters. Their second half, though, they were one of the worst teams. And that really needs to change. You need to have a go-to guy to score in the clutch moments of a game. I think John Wall can be that guy. I don't know why it is that they rank so low in those categories, but
I think it might be coaching, really.
I think teams kind of figure Randy Whitman out by halftime.
I mean, Randy Whitman can't even turn the
board over.
Yeah, he can't even turn the board over.
Yeah. Well, no, he can turn the board over quite a bit. If you remember that clip.
Yeah. I guess he can't find the right spot, right direction.
He's not sure where he wants to go from. He's just like, but I could go. Maybe he's just a little OCD. Maybe we should mock him for it.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, there's something needs to change. They need to get more creative because the teams are figuring them out by halftime, and then they just don't have the ability to rely on Wall's quickness and Beal's jump shot once the second half arrives. So I don't know. Their pace is a little too fast for my liking, but I don't want to see them lower that. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Let's talk about the big picture.
Yeah, so my big picture assessment of this team is they're definitely a playoff team. They made some incremental improvements, I feel like. Losing Paul Pierce had them lose some leadership, but Allen Anderson and Jared Dudley are veterans in their own right, and they might not be as spunky and as legendary as Paul Pierce, but they provide a lot more offense and a lot more defense at this stage than Paul Pierce can. I also feel like that this team is definitely interesting. Like you're mentioning, they have that front court of Marcin Gortat and Nene, and we might see more Otto Porter and we might see more of Kelly Oubre at the four. I know specifically there's been more talk about Porter at the four, and that's a pretty interesting development because Porter, again, was a number 3 pick in the draft a couple of years ago, but he really hasn't lived up to the hype. I think he really started to show some promise last season in the playoffs as a shooter, as a defender, as like an overall athlete. And even if he doesn't play the four, I'm hoping that he plays a major role at the 3 because when they lost Trevor Ariza last season, they really weren't great. That was their big weak spot. Like you can't really have Martell Webster or Otto Porter last season when he wasn't that great on defense. You really need some depth at the 3 position, especially in the Eastern Conference where you have Carmelo Anthony, DeMar Carroll, LeBron James, and a bunch of other players, Paul George, that are the most important players on the team that play the 3 spot. And yeah, I'm really hoping to see more from Wall and Beal. I'm hoping that Beal has a healthier season and for Wall to continue playing at a very high level.
I laughed at DeMar Carroll being on your list of offensive guys to worry about.
I was like,
I would have gone.
Where did Paul George?
I would have gone with Tobias Harris. You know, the poor man's Carmelo Anthony. Not so poor anymore,
but Johnson.
Yeah, when we talk about Porter, I mean, I agree. They need a quality 3 after Pierce left, and Pierce wasn't even. What?
When Ariza left, like even having Pierce.
Oh yeah, no, Pierce wasn't even that great. Well, no, he became a stretch 4 down the line, like for the playoffs, but he wasn't even so great at the 3 spot. Not because he was Ben A. Facet, but he's just older. You know, defending some of the guys is tough for him, and he can only play 25 minutes. He had a minutes restriction. So they do need that depth, and I think they got that depth in having Kelly Oubre and getting Jared Dudley and Otto Porter kind of emerging. You talked about his performance in the playoffs, and I didn't even so much see something offensive wise. Like, he's shown a lot of improvement in terms of his shooting this preseason. He's flat out stroking the ball, but in terms of his rebounding at a 3 spot in the postseason, it was outstanding. I'm pretty sure he was getting at least like 10 points, 10 boards a game. He played incredibly. He played very big. So that's why I think putting him at that 4 spot is more natural for him, where he can just focus on interior and like getting the boards. I think that might be a very good move for him and for the team. And then maybe you can get a more versatile player at that 3 spot, have an athletic running gun team with Wall, Beal, whoever you put at the 3. If you want to put Oubre in, I would really like to see that. Oubre and Porter.
Yeah.
That could be a really fun, fast team.
But it would have been killer in 2K too.
Yeah. But this team is very much just Wall and Beal's team. Wherever Wall and Beal can take them, that's where they're going to go. We need Bradley Beal to step up, be that all-star caliber talent that he's shown he has. He needs to start playing more like it, a little more consistency. John Wall, I want him to be the guy to be a 20 and 10 player. I do. And he has a chance. Obviously, his per 36 numbers and assists have been off the charts. Like, they've been growing each and every year. His rookie year, he spent a lot of time on the court, and he got good assist numbers. His per 36 was only about, 8 assists per game. And that kept increasing by, increments. It went from 7.9 to 8.0. A little varied. It finally got to, 8.7. And then this past year, it went up to 10.1. It spiked up. And he put up 10 assists. Exactly 10 assists.
Yeah,
and so,
in 35.9 minutes.
Exactly. But in previous years, he needed more time to put up less numbers. So, I mean, he only scored 17, 18 points a game.
Yeah, his points went down, but his assists went up.
Yeah, which I don't mind. I think I would like to see him take a little bit more of the shots, but I do understand the need to have that assists up. You need a good distributor. But hopefully, the rise of Beal as a playmaker could help here, and Wall can kind of get some shots off. Maybe get 2 more points on his scoring total. He just needs 1 more basket.
I'd rather have Wall just drive and kick. Because last season he shot it at 30% from 3. Hopefully he's a little bit better this season at the 3-point shot. Yeah. But if you have some decent 3-point shooters in the dictionary, Martell Webster, Allen Anderson, Jared Dudley, Brad Beal, even off the bench Drew Gooden and Chris Humphries, I mean, you really don't need to score that much.
I just want him to. I'm just saying for him, I just want him to. But, I mean, they're great players, and I think Beal can finally take that step now. They're going to be a playoff team. They're going to be a 5-6 seed, unless Beal takes that step, and then we can talk about them being in the top 4. We can talk about them challenging. But I'm really interested to see what happens with this whole Porter at the 4 thing.
Yeah, same.
So moving on, excitement.
I have them at a 6.5. Obviously, Wall and Beal are 2 really fun players to watch, especially when they're on. But when the Wizards are off, they're really They're really boring.
Yeah.
I mean, watching them, and you pretty much hit the nail on the head when you said they take a lot of mid-range shots. And watching the team, yeah, they did take a lot of mid-range shots. And that's when they were losing games, when they were at their least efficient, when they were settling for mid-range shots, when Wall wasn't penetrating all the way, when Beal wasn't stepping back and shooting it from 3, or if you have Gortat or Nene just shooting mid-range shots, that's when they're not good. And I'm hoping to see some more creativity from Randy Whitman, coaching-wise, and hoping to see some more from this team aside from the mid-range shots. I want more penetration, I want more free throw shooting, and I want more running. And you mentioned how having Porter at the 4 would be really important and really key for the team, and I'd like to see that lineup with Porter at the 4 and whoever they can at the 5, because I think if the Wizards want to win, they could probably win if they sport that Wall, Beal, Ubra, Porter first four guys because that's as athletic as a team can get in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. It's sort of like the Pacers, except they're faster than the Pacers. You know, we talked about the Pacers. We didn't know who they were going to fill in as that, like, fifth man for the speedy fast break. You always had, like, Turner, George, Ellis, and Hill, but you didn't know who would fill out. This team's younger and more athletic.
Yeah.
So I think they could have a very good chance. My excitement was lower than yours, actually. I think might be the first time I gave a worse grade.
Yeah.
I put them at a 5.
Okay.
And that's just because I don't know how to feel about them. Like, I think John Wall is a really fun player. I think when Bradley Beal is on, he's a really fun player to watch. However, I have many concerns about injury for him. And also just, when is he going to be on? You know, like he's saying all the right things. Like, oh, I want to eliminate the mid-range shot I take. Well, yeah, but you didn't realize that last year? You didn't think to like get rid of it last year, so I don't know. I'm hopeful for him because I really want him to be a star. I think he can be a star in this league after he had that breakout series against Indiana 2 seasons ago rather. I don't know. I'm really hopeful that he gets it. If he does get it, then I can get more excited for this team. But until then, I know what the Wizards are. Even if he really gets it and becomes that 3 and free throw player like James Harden or something, I still would only give them maybe like a 6. Like, you know what the Wizards are. The way that their roster currently is, they're not winning a championship, and that's no knock on the talent. They're just missing talent in one key spot in their center. You know, they have potential at all 4 spots really, except for center. If you're counting Porter at the 4. If we're counting Porter at the 3 again, then power forward and center are up for grabs in terms of potential. But even worse than that, they're missing potential in a very key place. Their coach. Listen, I mean, like we had just had the whole talk before about we wonder why they did so poorly scoring in second half. If it truly is Randy Whitman, just his play style, like he can't think of any plays. It's documented how poor of a coach he is. Like, you know, poor of a play caller rather. I don't think he's a poor coach. That wouldn't mean he can't get to the players. I think he has fine relations with the players. I just mean play caller. And I don't think he has that ability to him. Unless he can really prove me wrong this year, I don't think they have the coaching experience, like the coaching ability necessary to get a championship ring.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, record-wise, where do you see this team?
Record-wise, I see them sitting close to where they were last season. I think drop 2 wins. Drop 2 wins just because it's going to take a while for whoever they trot out at small forward or power forward. If it's just Porter in the starting lineup, or if it's Ubra and Porter, or Dudley and Porter, like it's going to take time for them to mesh, and Porter's going to need time to kind of get used to being in a regular season starting 5. If you're starting Nene and Gortat regular starter minutes, then I don't know if they're going to have the ability to really defend that paint. I got to put them at like 43, 41 wins. I got to drop them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going the opposite direction. I see them having 48 wins, which is a 2-win improvement from last season. I think it's surely because development and having a better fit, having Otto Porter at the 4, whether it's off the bench, whether it's in the starting role, I think that'll be good for the team, especially if you're going to have Carmelo Anthony, Paul George, LeBron James, those
playing the 4s.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be a lot better, and he's going to be a lot more flexible than Nene at the 4. And I think
listen, when I say
Bradley Beal to have a good season. Yeah.
When I say that they're going to drop to 43, 41, I'm giving them that as a floor. Like, that's talking about if they keep insisting on giving Nene and Gortat minutes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if they do this switch where you're putting Porter in and you're going to have Ubra in and that's going to be your lineup, then run rampant. I think they stay at where, I don't think they increase, but I think they stay where they're at record-wise. But again, that was me. I just wanted to make that clear because I don't think I kind of portrayed that well when I was speaking before. So continue with what you were saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. I'm personally don't really have as high expectations for Kelly Oubre as some other people. Some people draft him with the first pick in NBA 2K16. But aside from that, I hope I might see more Martell Webster, more Jared Dudley, and Allen Anderson. Jared Dudley could be the stretch four, and that could lead them to some wins because Dudley and Anderson are decent players. They might be on vet-min deals, but Anderson was a key player for the Nets last season, and Dudley also was a key player for the Bucks last year too.
Right, key player for the Nets. Come on, man.
I mean, he scored 20 in the playoffs against the Hawks, so it's okay.
It's legitimate.
I mean, he scored more. He had a higher points per game than Darren Williams, who was being paid 20 times more than him.
His game went missing. Just leave that alone. All right, continue with your point.
I mean, Anderson and Dudley. I mean, they're not great players, but they're gonna get this team to play hard. They'll get Wall and Beal and Porter, to bust their ass in practice because those guys are tough, hard-nosed players, and I think that'll do a lot for the chemistry of this team. It'll replace what Paul Pierce gave to this team last year, which I was talking about before. I'm pretty optimistic for this team.
I understand what you're saying, and by no means my comment before meant to knock Allen Anderson. He is a very good energy player. He was in Toronto. He did play well for the Nets. The Nets just kind of submarined around him. Jared Dudley, another great energy guy. They're both smart veterans, very savvy. I'm not sure if I'd go so far as saying they replaced what Paul Pierce gave. Paul Pierce brings that winning pedigree, that championship mentality, that killer clutch instinct. So I don't know if they replace what he brings. I know what you're saying, though.
On-court production-wise, but
yeah,
leadership, yeah.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Just stats-wise, they can replace Paul Pierce.
Right.
But, yeah. I just wanted to clarify on that one. All right, then moving on. Social media.
All right, so I think the one thing I came up with is Marcin Gortat posted a picture on Instagram where a couple of weeks ago, Marcin Gortat and Drew Gooden, who's surprisingly still in this league, they were hanging out with Justin Bieber. I mean, if you had two of the least likely players in the NBA to be hanging out with Justin Bieber, I think Marcin Gortat and Drew Gooden would be two of the least likely players to hang out with Bieber. I mean, yeah. How do you feel about that? I know you're not a Bieber believer.
I don't know how to feel about that. I feel like Marcin Gortat...
Gortat's an underrated, funny guy.
Yeah.
He has that Jordan tattoo on his calf.
Just his hair. The stuff he does with his hair, too.
Yeah.
It's funny. And I like the little sly comment about Drew Gooden. He put up great numbers for them.
Yeah, but when was he last relevant? I mean...
With the Wizards! Yeah. At the end of, not this season, last season. When they picked him up as right before the playoffs began. And he had that tear of games where he was averaging, insane points and rebound numbers.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he's bounced around the league so much that people just forget about him.
I don't even know if he bounced around even. He went to... Oh, no, you're right. He was on the Cavs in Milwaukee. I don't even know where he was in between that.
Yeah, he's been on 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Wow. Yeah.
9 teams.
I know him from 3 stints. Yeah, you're right. No, I'll give you that point. I don't know. I just like the subtle shot. You know what? Whatever. He's still... Who cares if he's as good as some of the other ballers? He's getting to hang out with the celebs still.
I mean, it's more than what Chris Humphries has been doing.
Stop.
He's another Wizard.
Oh, stop.
And DeJuan Blair's looking good, too. DeJuan Blair's looking pretty brolic.
Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter what his upper body looks like. He still don't have a knee.
I mean, he's really... I was kind of disappointed that DeJuan Blair didn't get that much burn last season. The season prior in Dallas, he was a key player for that team. That team had a pretty good series against the Spurs, and Blair, not playing in one of those games, lost the series for them. And him going to Washington and not really playing a lot kind of surprised me.
I just think they have so much big man stuff, and they're paying Nene and Gortat to be their go-to guy. So I don't know. I know what you're saying. He should have gotten a little bit more burn, but I think they were just kind of trying to give their
To Drew Gooden.
quote-unquote
Minister to
star.
Gooden.
Yeah, well, no, Gooden didn't even play, like, that much for them. What did he average? Like, 10 minutes per game?
Yeah, something around that.
Yeah, whatever. My social stat, Bradley Beal body tattoo.
I did not see that.
Yeah, you didn't see it was like a month ago.
I mean, I saw John Wall, like, he has a chest tattoo.
Who, John Wall or Bradley Beal?
Yeah. Like, I think John Wall comes from the Kevin Durant school of not getting tattoos on my arms, but I'm going to get tattoos all over my body so you can't see them.
Well, yeah, Bradley Beal is a chest tattoo. It's right below. It's below his nipple line. It's like his stomach. It's a cross on his happy trail with like flowers.
It's rather interesting.
Yeah. He has a whole passage on it about like a whole religious passage on it.
Okay.
So yeah, your thoughts on body tattoos?
I mean, there's a point between where tattoos are pretty cool and where they get too extreme.
Yeah.
Obviously, Chris Anderson is at the end of that extreme spectrum.
Andrei Kirilenko?
Andrei Kirilenko just has that one back tattoo.
It's disgusting, but
I mean, it's okay. The dragon looks pretty badass, but if you look like Chris Anderson,
yeah, no,
and you have tattoo, like I think he has a skull tattoo now. That's a little too much. But Bradley Beal, he's a younger guy. His tattoo is religious inspired, so obviously it means a lot to him. So can't really hate on it.
How do you feel about the Kevin Durant tattoo? That was the one you went to like hate on real quick right there with the John Wall side comment. So how do you feel? How do you feel for real? How do you feel about Kevin Durant's tattoo?
I mean, like people call Kevin Durant like a hidden thug or like a hidden like tough guy because he doesn't have any tattoos on his arms, but he's tatted all over his body. It's like what's there to hide?
Weird.
Yeah,
You're not gonna say
really weird.
It looks really weird, especially because he doesn't like fill the tats out because he's so like ridiculously skinny.
Yeah,
it looks kind of like gross. It looks odd. It's off. I know what you're like saying. It doesn't look good.
Yeah. Mario Chalmers has a tattoo of Super Mario on his arm with a basketball.
Yeah, but that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a pretty random.
All right.
It was a pretty random comment.
Anything else you got for this team?
If any of you are playing NBA 2K16, please be sure to pick up Kelly Oubre. I heard he's pretty good.
You're taking so many shots right now. Oh my god.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys, and thanks for sticking with us, even though these videos have slowly been getting longer and longer.
Better.
Yeah, but better. Definitely better. If you've been sticking around with us this whole time, hopefully you've noticed a little bit more life and energy and more flow to our podcasts. And stick around. We hope to keep doing this for a while.
Here's to a great season.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Love you.